Oh, and the bar jumps for Gukesh. It now says better on the bar.
What is this decision?
This move makes no sense to me. Gukesh is luring the white rook away from the edge.
He threatens the queen with his rook.
Is this a mistake by Ding?
Ding continues playing at quite a quick pace, and he moves his knight to attack the white pawn.
We are halfway through the World Chess Championship. Ding and Gukesh, they are tied after 7 games. Welcome to the Take post-game show. And today, let's also call it a halftime show. We don't have Usher, we don't have Lady Gaga, but we have something even better. Let's bring in pundit number 1. He's also world number 1, Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus, game 7, that was an action-filled game. What is your first reaction to it?
This was a fantastic game. We really couldn't have asked for more. There was a fascinating idea from Gukesh in the opening, an almost entirely new concept. Then, he played a really good game up to a certain point. Ding started fighting back, and we got this fantastic back and forth battle where Ding eventually found a lot of resources to stay in the game. So overall, I think by far the best game of the match so far, and I think it's one that um, uh, really thrilled everybody.
Amazing. Oh, I can't wait to dig into this game together with the two of you, because let's also bring in the other pundit, Gotham Chess, Levy Rosman. Are you as excited as Magnus about Game 7?
Yeah, I think we finally got the iconic game. We got every World Championship, I would say, has at least one of these. And this one was fantastic. Yeah, Rookie 1 by Gukesh, which we're going to get into in a second, was almost never played. I think it's like the 17th most popular move in that position. And also, I have to say, everybody got what they wanted. The spectators got the bar going up and down. At its maximum, it was something like +5 in the end game.
Yeah.
But it never... It was not the world's most obvious +5, so we still have things to analyze, and I wouldn't say it was like a one-move blunder by Gukesh. So, yeah, it was a great game.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's jump right into the game, you guys. Game 7 in Singapore. Gukesh had the white pieces. It was a Grunfeld opening. And Magnus, go ahead. What moment do you want to start with here?
Yeah, let's start with Gukesh's really. I would call it a novelty because I don't think it's ever been seen at anywhere near the level that it was today. And this is kind of vintage Gajewski, Gukesh's main trainer, that he finds a lot of these ideas, like absolutely obscure ideas. And the thing about them is that the engines hate it at first, and then when you analyze more and more, you sort of make them playable. So you're presenting your opponent with a lot of choices and a completely fresh position. Obviously, your opponent knows that he has at least an equal position here, but he's presented with so many choices, and none of them are like obvious. For instance, if you mimic White's move, moving the rook as well with Black, then White will probably play h3, which is finally the top engine, like make another waiting move and force you again. Like, are you going to take my pawn? And I think for Ding, this was really unpleasant because now he's sort of forced to fight at an unfamiliar territory, and he feels that, well, I kind of have to accept this challenge. I don't see a clear way for me to be equal if I just play it safe. So I thought this was um, a tremendous surprise found by the Gukesh camp, and it was really quite impressive because you don't see these completely new ideas that often, even in a world championship match. Usually, the ideas that you find are sort of tweaks to ideas that are already known. So, yeah, that was the first big moment for me.
Wow. I think we talked about in the live show that at this point there was actually only one game in history with this position, and it was a lower rated game. It was, in fact, the next move that Ding made that was the actual novelty. But yeah, Magnus, you are correct. What Gukesh did there was basically a novelty then. So impressive
Yeah,
opening.
as I said, it's an entirely new concept, and I think it was very well suited to the match situation and Ding's temperament. Like, I think we sort of all expected Gukesh to go for e4 to find some idea in the French defense, and instead he goes and finds something fresh in an entirely new direction. So it was really fascinating to see.
I
How
will
cool.
just add, yeah, I'll just add here that if we back up one move, I myself have before rookie one, I myself have struggled a bit in this position with the white pieces, and I've played the move a4, which is a pretty well explored idea, but the idea is to just delay capturing on d5 and creating the symmetrical pawn structure. I actually played that in August, and it was a nice game. It was the famous game where I ended up with a bishop and like 4 pawns for a queen in an endgame, not because of the opening. But also, Magnus himself has played knight c3 here with a similar idea that if black captures in the center, you get the big center, which I guess we can fast forward to. And so, yeah, Magnus, I don't know how much time you spent like breaking this down, but it's quite different with the knight on c3 or with the rook on e1. Like my gut says the rook on e1 with the pawn on e4 is an improvement for white as opposed to the knight on c3. But is that assessment fair?
I think there are pros and cons, you know. The main pro, of course, of Rookie One is that it's fresh, you know. Knight C3, as you said, I played it myself. I prepared it for the 2021 World Championship as part of my idea to sort of play D4 and then sacrifice this pawn whenever I could. Um, but yeah, as you say, sometimes the knight wants to go to a different square. So that could be a possibility. Black cannot so easily advance the B pawn to attack the knight. But then on the other hand, you know, um, White doesn't always want to put the rook there. Sometimes you want to play the queen to E2, then put the rook on D1. Actually, you want to do that quite often. So I think, as so often in chess, there are pros and cons, and if you look at the positions deeply enough, they turn out to be equal. But as you said, Levy, there were definitely ideas of this move, and we could see one of the chief ideas on the very next move when Gukesh actually put his knight on the D2 square instead of the more obvious C3 square. As you say, like one of the ideas of the delaying this and. Um, Yeah, this is what you get in the opening when you when you make a fresh move. It doesn't seem at first to be an important tweak, sort of, because you think there are the same ideas, but then this shows up and you get an entirely fresh position, which is what you want.
Yeah. And at this point, the bar is saying here it's still balanced, but at this point, could you already see some ambition from Gukesh in this game?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. You don't play this kind of opening if you're not highly ambitious with the white pieces. So even though I'm sure they've analyzed it to a point where they feel like it's safe for white, still it takes guts in this situation, match tie, to just give up a pawn and know that you're not getting it back necessarily in a long time.
All right. Well, not long after this in the game, we actually had, if we fast forward a little bit in the game, we actually have a take situation with 3 captures in a row. We do love when we can use our take graphics. And where should we jump to next, you guys? Like in the take app, there's so many headlines in this game. We have great moves, we have mistakes, we have mysterious moves. Where do you want to go to?
Well, first of all, yeah, you go ahead.
No. I'm curious. I want to know if we're on the same page. First of all, what?
No, I was gonna say that. So Ding's reaction with C5, it was kind of
Yeah.
it was understandable because you take the game into maybe somewhat clearer territory, but it wasn't objectively great. Like it goes from a position where black is completely fine and to one where he's objectively a little bit worse. Um, But I didn't necessarily hate that. But of course, Ding spent a lot of time, and he's decided to radically change the character of the position to go from a position where you're a pawn off to one where you've given your opponent a pass pawn in the middle, and you've given up the bishop pair as well. So that's, it's not a it's not an obvious decision by any means.
Would you play b5 yourself, knowing that your opponent might be prepared like 10 moves in? What is that psychology like, where b5 is probably the best move, but you've never studied the position? C5 kind of, you have the benefit of like, well, I might get them out of preparation. Also, the plan for me is kind of simpler. There might be some less decisions to make down the line, but I know inherently it's not the best move. The best move is probably b5. How do you make that decision?
So the thing about this is that there are positions after b5. Then white will go h3, I think, most likely. So just imagine a scenario where black trades off the light squared bishop and then puts up a pawn wall with e6. And you're sort of thinking like, these positions look very solid for black. But actually, they are not. White has a very clear attack there on the king side, just pushing the h pawn, the flanked pawn, off the board and using that to attack. So it's very dangerous. So if you're playing the move bishop to g4 and then b5, this sort of has to be connected with the idea of retreating the bishop, thinking that you forced the white knight to an inferior square. And I think that he felt that this wasn't easy to do psychologically. But if you're asking me what I would have played in a vacuum, b5, 100%, I would probably think that c5, well, it's not terrible, but I don't see any clear equality. And then I'll just have to go b5 and then take the punches.
We've been asking for punches in the match. They definitely answered that. And at this point now, we can see the bar. It really starts coming to life. It says slightly better. It's even massively better at some point for Gukesh. He was really in a great position to win this game for a long time. Gukesh, did you expect here that he would win this game, Magnus?
I would say, first of all, I was really impressed with the way Gukesh played. First, putting his knight on a3 on the edge there was not obvious, but you kind of needed to do that to gain time and also not allow the black knight to get a great position in the center on e5. Maybe Ding misjudged that a little bit, and then his whole plan with developing the bishop and the queen is obvious, but then also I really liked his idea of going b4 there. This idea is known from Benoni structures, but the thing is, like, you give your opponent a protected pass pawn, and that is quite a big commitment. So even though he gets good squares for his pieces, it's not an obvious decision by any means. And yeah, as you said, he did get a big advantage after that. I think he handled what was happening after here so well. And honestly, I think he was just one move away there at some point from getting a completely decisive advantage.
Uh-huh. Do you agree with that, Levy?
Yeah. I mean, it's the biggest moment is not up for debate. He played Rook A5, which I was thinking what Magnus said. I think in the third recap, which is like, if you give Gukesh his chance in a concrete position, he will take it. There is a case to be made. He probably shouldn't have spent 20 minutes, but he found the best move. And the moment that was there was rook takes b5, so we can keep going. Yeah, they repeated. That was smart to gain some closer. Not, I mean, I was going to say gain time, but you don't gain any time in this format. You just get closer to the time control. So right here, queen d3. Yeah, apparently bishop e3 is lights out for black. Like you go deep in any position, and somehow black just really, really lacks counterplay. And yeah, I don't know how long you, if you had a chance to look at this one, Magnus, but it's kind of shocking how powerful that move is, and it feels much more natural to go forward, queen f4, try to like make something happen, but somehow, yeah, bishop e3 is the move. We now always have the benefit of hindsight as spectators, but yeah, how tough of a move is that to find?
No, but this is what is fascinating. So when Gukesh finds all of these moves, rook a1, rook a3, king g2, and then rook a5, which I, like many others, I was watching the game, and the engine screams out rook a5, which is not an obvious move. Yes, you rather want to win the pawn on b5, but uh, you know, why does the computer scream that this is +2 or something? It's not obvious at all. But then you sort of start seeing that black has really passive pieces, blah blah blah. But Ding has this really good try with queen b3 and queen d3, which is exactly what he plays. And then you get to, oh, this is why Gukesh is hesitating so much about why he's repeating, because he's not sure about this position. And as Levy said, it's not obvious that this move bishop e3, which objectively gives a decisive advantage. Like there's no doubt about that. It's yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to find at all. And if you give Gukesh this position as an exercise and say you have one move that gives you a decisive advantage, like you will look at queen f4, he which he played. So I obviously, as a fan of Gukesh, would have loved for him to find that. And as Levy said, like the black position is remarkably helpless. Like you wouldn't expect it to be that lost. Um, but I don't really blame him for this, especially seeing that the continuation he chose also gave him a very good position.
Okay, so at this point for Ding, is he, and we I've listened to the press conference, and Ding sort of sums it up that he got a really lucky escape today. At this point in the game with the black pieces, is Ding fighting for his life?
Oh yeah, he's fighting for his life. That I mean, for now, for 10 moves, he's barely been hanging on. He's making only moves just to stay in the game. So yeah, I think at this point his game is kind of easy in that sense that, and this is why Ding was playing fast at this moment as well, because he doesn't have any choice. He has to make the moves that are quite obviously the best and just hope that he survives.
So I'm wondering then, at what moment does it turn this game? When does it? When does Ding stop fighting to avoid losing, and when is it about a draw? Is it a mistake by Gukesh? Is it some great moves by Ding?
Oh, there were a lot of interesting moments.
Okay, well let's keep going then. Nice.
Yeah, I would say here, yeah, we can move forward. There was a moment after, if we back up like 2 moves to when Gukesh played the move queen to f4. I love looking at the way computers defend positions. The computer here wants to sacrifice the g pawn. It wants to play g5, give up the pawn, deflect the queen away, and then use the knight standing next to the king on f8 as, like basically I compared it to kicking out a window. Like you just break out of the position, which is very funny. But that is, I mean, I don't know how hard that is to play. It seems quite hard. Instead, we get this endgame, which we can go into. Gukesh didn't have to trade First of all, he didn't have to trade the bishops, and even here he didn't have to trade the queen. He had multiple options, but he trades everything down, plays rook c5, and basically thinks, I'm going to win this endgame because I have a better pawn structure, pass pawn, and I have rook c5. I'm going to be a pawn up. Now, I guess this is where I'll throw it back to the endgame maestro. This was obviously a bit rushed, yeah? Like, it seems to get the blockade on d6. Is that the first thing you can come up with here, Magnus? Like, I got to get a blockade, get my king closer. What feels wrong about this transition to this endgame?
I mean, first of all, you're thrilled to get here as Ding. You've gotten rid of a lot of pieces. You've traded a bunch of pieces. Your atrocious knight, which had no squares, all of a sudden has a square. Yes, you've ruined your position a bit, but now you have a target. Now you can, as you said, you can think of scenarios where I can actually hold this position instead of, well, I'm just trying to hold this move by move. Like now you can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, I can imagine that Gukesh may have underestimated the maneuver that Ding found here with his knight, which was really, really nice. Um, and and yeah, so this is actually a big moment, which where Gukesh could have retreated his rook, and then given up the b4 pawn, which looks ridiculous, and he or really any human was never really going to do that. I think the continuation that he chose was the one that occurred to me as well, and it was absolutely what you'd expect from any good player. But I would be interested to hear what Ding had to say about those moments later on, because I think that was really probably his weakest moment of the game after that, because his 40th move was, I think, almost pure panic. So Gukesh does the right things here in order to keep the game going. He really doesn't have that much anymore. His bishop is bad. His pawns are quite weak. All of Black's pieces are excellently placed. The knight can be easily improved as well with a couple of moves to a very nice blockading position. Um, so I don't think Gukesh could have been very happy. But then, Ding, I think he lost his mind a little bit with the next move.
Yeah, this says in the take app that this is a mistake. Would you even call it a blunder, Magnus, by Ding moving his king up here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
Well,
Magnus, but I'll
it's
say
an
it, yeah.
obvious, yeah, yeah.
A blunder.
Um,
Yeah, the question is, I guess, Magnus, the better question is this a worse blunder than Gukesh's king e1? And obviously we're skipping quite far ahead. But yeah, knight c8, knight d6, and the game is almost dead. Like, because you get the blockade, which is, first of all, an effective defensive maneuver in that endgame, and you put pressure on white's kind of like outlier pawn on b5. Yeah, I mean, it was a king. When I saw king e5, it reminded me of Fabiano Nepo last game of the world of the candidates, like where they just kept going back and forth, and advantages were alive, dead. So, oh yeah,
but I think I know the explanation for this move. Gukesh had this pass pawn on d5 for so long, and it had been such a thorn in Ding's side that now he finally had a reasonable opportunity, he felt, to eliminate that pawn. So you're sitting there with 3 minutes, and you're thinking, well, I can go blockade it with the knight. It's probably what I should do, but I don't really clarify the situation. I go to a position where my pieces are active. Like, yeah, it should hold. That should be fine. But maybe I should just eliminate that pawn. Maybe I can eliminate the B pawn as well, and then all of these 3 versus 2 situations on the king side. I think I can. Time is running out. Okay, let's eliminate the pawn. Um, I'm imagining something like that must have gone through his mind. But yeah, this, I mean, for like all objective purposes and my logic as well, you're eliminating uh what is at this point a completely harmless pass pawn that is honestly like just limiting White's bishop almost more than anything else, and you're giving up a very dangerous pass pawn for Gukesh, and you're letting him activate his rook to boot. So yeah, that was not great.
Hmm. And I guess the even bigger blunder in the game, when it really was heartbreak for all the Indian fans, was coming up shortly after this, when Gukesh moved his bishop and the bar just jumped back to balanced, basically. What's happening here?
Yeah, I would even
Yeah,
say
let's back up a couple of moves.
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
always keep
Yeah,
going too fast. You
yeah.
guys run the
Magnus,
show. It's better.
why did he go king e1 and not h4? I mean, and it's not as easy as h4 is the best move according to the computer, but king e1 is like it becomes such a problematic piece all the time. So I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious.
it's concrete thinking, Levy. I think this is what Gukesh does, and it has been his downfall at several points in this match already, that he tries to sort of solve problems concretely. I agree. This move is an absolute eyesore, and it's not a great move either. But I think he didn't want to let Ding exchange the bishop for the knight. Because he's in his mind is thinking 3 versus 2 on the king side. Oh, this looks too drawish. I don't want to do this. Um, and maybe he's calculating lines after h4 as well, and he kind of like he finds something. He finds some resources. With the facts at hand, we can of course say that h4 and I think a ton of other moves as well win according to Stockfish on a high depth. Um, but I think it's not obvious when you sit there. But you really got to be sure about the move King E1 because as you say, Levy, like the king is not well placed there, and he was suffering the rest of the game because of this move. And now we get to another really fascinating moment because Ding spends 20 minutes here or 20 minutes plus, but he ends up making a fantastic practical decision with the move
Oh.
f6. And I was actually like, I saw at this point that um, f6 is the best chance for black because you want to basically you're just spending a move so you can activate your rook without white moving up his rook and attacking both your pawns on the seventh rank. And it feels outrageous that you should have time for that in such a dire situation. But Ding realized that this is my best chance. I have nothing else. And honestly, that was extremely impressive. And he did spend all this time, which is in a vacuum not good. But after this, he played quickly, he played confidently, and yeah, I mean he pulled it off. He saved the game.
Hmm. Is this like peak Ding, Ding, top four, Ding, pre-COVID kind of move then?
Yeah, honestly, I think this was his best one of his best moments of the match. I was really impressed with the way he actually dug back here. And to go to your point earlier about luck, was he said he it was a lucky escape. Um, I I usually like subscribe to the theory in chess that you you cannot be unlucky in chess, but you can sort of make your own luck
Hmm.
sometimes. And I think he certainly did at this moment.
Hmm. But it still says much better on the bar for Gukesh. So what happens then?
But it's not obvious, you know?
Yeah. So is
Yeah.
this like a situation where, yeah, for the computer it's much better for white, but with human eyes, this is making it very difficult for Gukesh to win the game?
Yeah. The best move here is rook c8, like going all the way down with the rook, and I suppose causing problems from the other side of the board. And yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes the best way to look at an engine evaluation for anybody interested at home is go like 8 moves, 9 moves deep and just sort of see what it's trying to do and then put it into human terms. And sometimes it's just not very human. I think that's sort of also what Magnus is getting at.
Yeah, I very much agree. Like there were moves like Rook C8, Rook A6, and so on that were all objectively winning. But I think King E1 is just a conceptual mistake. And I think probably after F6, I wouldn't say that Ding was favorite to hold, but I think he had a very good chance. I really think like this combination of moves, Gukesh's uh, kind of like complete lack of confidence in playing that move, King E1, which is clearly overthinking it, and Ding finding the absolute best chance with the move F6. Like this was a really crucial moment for the game and could very well be for the match as well.
Oh yeah, such a good point. Oh, it's so cool listening to you guys. Loving this game. Uh, this happens right after they get the additional 30 minutes, so sort of the time trouble is off the table, but they keep spending time, so it gets interesting on the clocks again with only 30 minutes extra time plus 30 seconds increment after move 40. Is Gukesh feeling the time pressure when he starts now making mistakes? Or can he not blame the clock?
No, I think I don't know. Like, look, if a person doesn't convert their advantage, it feels like in this match we're sort of resorting to a couple of different things. We say like time management, nerves. Uh, Sometimes you just don't find the best objective plan. It's very tough to say what Gukesh was thinking at this like final moment here, where he gave up kind of the entire advantage with Rook D3, or it's obviously White's move here, which was H4. I don't know. Maybe he thought already. Like here, he hesitated. I think there's video footage here of him taking his bishop and hesitating, putting it back on F3, and then like bring it. That's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
That's hardly ever a good sign. Luckily, he's not in any danger of losing the game, but it's not a good sign that everything is under control. And yeah, he plays bishop d1, and Ding finds this fantastic move f4 basically instantly. He spent literally 2 seconds on it. And that's, yeah, at this point, I mean, the game is over in the sense that, White is basically starting from zero and probably has no way to push for an advantage. So, yeah, I don't know if it was time, Kaya. I would say, Gukesh just let it slip. King e1, and that was sort of downhill.
Mm-hmm. So how will Gukesh feel after this game? It's just a massive chance that he wasn't able to convert, Magnus.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think in a different match, it might have felt even worse because if you look at it objective, like he is still fine in this match because Ding is not putting any pressure on him with the white pieces. So you can sort of afford to let these chances go to a larger degree. But yeah, obviously this was a big one for Gukesh. I think like he did a lot of really good things this game, and he never had a win that was by any means obvious. So I wouldn't blame him too much for not converting this. But if you're asking like how he feels, I would imagine that even he must be at least somewhat flustered by letting this chance go.
Mm-hmm. And is this a moment now? Because from here on out, they trade off pieces. It ends up being a draw, game 7. I think it's the longest game we've had so far in the match, but it is a draw. And is it time now to talk about MVP and piece of beep in this game? Or do you want to talk about some
Yeah, I will
normals?
just add. I will just add that I thought Ding's. I wouldn't say conversion in terms of the way he saved the draw was really immaculate. And he played quickly, he played confidently, and he played very well. Um, I would say in terms of the piece of shit, let's do that one first.
Mm-hmm.
Very clearly White's bishop. It made a move that gave away the rest of his advantage, and honestly, like it never found a lot of work. I think it captured a knight early on, sorry, a bishop early on, and then afterwards it didn't really move until it made the decisive blunder. So I think that was a pretty bad career.
I was gonna say White King, but yeah, they're both. I think they're both definitely good. I feel like the White King just sort of castled, strolled around, and was a problem the entire game. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
the same story.
that's an excellent candidate as well.
Can we get a
Like,
tie? They're
don't do
both this
this at
terrible.
home, kids.
Yeah,
Don't do this at home. Don't play so passively. Like, yeah, but this is what you see. Like in a couple of games, you've seen Gukesh make moves that like most very strong players they wouldn't make just on principle. But this is what happens when you overthink, when there's nerves, and this just shows how tough World Championships
Mm-hmm.
are.
Who seems the most nervous at this point?
I don't know, Levy. What do you think? I think they're both pretty nervous, but I feel like Ding has sort of better sequences, really,
yeah,
of sort of quick, confident play. So, I mean, Gukesh has them as well. Probably a bit of a tie. Like in terms of nerves, they're both, I think, feeling them a lot, which, I think they should.
yeah. Very tough to say, Kai. I mean, Ding has these moments like in game 1 where he's just amazing for a prolonged period of time, plays fast. Same thing here when he was converting. If he rotated the knight before move 40, we would be having a totally different conversation. If he completely effortlessly held this game, the narrative would have been quite different. But then he kind of sank 99% of his remaining time on the final move and gave Gukesh a huge chance. His ups and downs feel a bit bigger, like a bit more extreme, but he hasn't missed he's missed like micro chances. We keep having these talks like, oh, he's not pushing the game for 7 hours. But today Gukesh didn't have to push the game for 7 hours. Maybe he could have just won it outright before the first time control. So I mean, we have what we want. We have a match that's halfway through. That's super close. That's quite unpredictable. And I think we said it yesterday. Like the closer it gets to the tiebreak and it stays tied, it's just going to get closer and closer in Ding's favor. So Title Tuesday starts in 10 minutes. I don't know if Magnus is playing, so maybe we crown the piece of beef.
Well, the MVP, right? I think
Yeah,
probably
first MVP.
Black's
Yeah,
Rook. The Black's Rook, like it stayed passive for a bit, but then it really did a tremendous job mopping up White's remaining pieces in the end.
it's funny. For
But
me, the MVP was honestly Magnus. I was trying to make a case for every piece. I was thinking Black King MVP, walked down the entire board, or the Knight. I mean, the Knight like ran around the board, centralized, took the remaining pawn to force the draw. I feel like any of them could have been an MVP. It was a group effort.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think all of them for sure.
Yeah. So we have
Honestly, White's Rook had a great career as well. But yeah, let's do. Should we do Black's King? I think that's a good one.
okay. MVP, Ding's King.
So you give yeah. So Ding's King is the MVP, and then the piece of is Ding's King. Is Gukesh's
I
King.
like the dichotomy between the kings. I felt one marched down the whole board directly face to face with the other one, and the white king just sort of sat there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of iconic.
Fantastic. Well, what a game 7, you guys. This was an exciting game. It has so many moments. It's so cool to see the two of you excited about this game as well. And I did say we should also do a little bit of a halftime show since we are halfway through. 7 out of 14 games has been played. Who has impressed you the most so far? Magnus.
Oh, I would say Ding, partly because we didn't have a lot of expectations. So I will sort of reiterate what I said a few days ago that Ding has been a bit better than expected, and then Gukesh has been a bit worse. I think Gukesh probably had his best sequence of the match today, when he was building up an advantage. It was really, really good, but he had some really weak moments as well, and he has had some other really weak moments as well in the match, especially in game one. So yeah, I would say that based on our expectations, it's it's yeah, it's thing that has impressed us the most. And we're not hating on Gukesh. We just have really high expectations for him based on what he's done now for basically a year.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And yeah, go ahead, Levy.
what I'll add to that, because obviously it's sort of the question. I'll try to be quick. I feel like every sport has this moment the superstar arrives, and oftentimes they're sort of the young prodigy. It happens in everything. It happens in, let's say, tennis. It happens in boxing and mixed martial arts. You have the prodigy who's rising up the ranks, has their biggest challenge, which first was, I suppose, the candidates, but now it's the world championship. And you either take the chance immediately, or it sometimes doesn't come back. And so if Gukesh had won this game, the narrative would be completely different for me. Like, I would say, wow, he had 2 chances with white in knight f3 and in d4. He's showing versatility in the opening, converting his advantages. This is amazing. And I said if he won the game today, he absolutely would win the match. But his time is running out, like, to take a chance. Still, some signs point to his favor. He's obviously put more pressure, especially with white, but he has 7 games to go. So yeah, pressure's
Three
on.
white games only.
Yeah, and 3 white games only, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what? So we're finished with the first 7 games. Sort of, they both finished off with the nerves of going into the match, and they've got a feel for each other, and the teams are well into it. So what should we expect for the last 7 games? More of what we saw today? Chances? It's about taking chances, or is it about being just very solid and not losing a game? You know, not taking any chances to lose a game. What do you expect for the last 7?
Oh yeah, I think it happens in every sport. In chess, it's not an exception. That the start of the match is often a bit cagey. Obviously, in this game, it started with a bang, but then it became a little bit more cagey over the next the next few games. Um, I would say, yeah, exactly. Then it usually opens up. People get tired. The strategies, they get thrown out the window at some point. And so, yeah, I do expect there to be a lot of fireworks in the rest of the match, because partly because I don't think either player is really capable of controlling it. Um, we'll see though if there will be any interesting moments in Ding's white games as well, because in the last few, the balance, even though there have been interesting games, like the balance hasn't really been disturbed. So I'll be interested to see that as well. But I think we can look forward to each battle where Gukesh is white and think like, um, yeah, it's gonna be must watch.
Yeah, and I guess 4 minutes until Title Tuesday. So, do you think we will see 14 games, and who will be the world champion at this point? What do you think, Levy?
I don't want to say who will win, but I think it's a 50-50 match.
Wow.
And I think time is really running out for Gukesh to make a statement. Like I said, if he won today's game, I think he wins the match. But I have no clue if he bounces back in emphatic fashion with the white pieces or not. Yeah, match is very unpredictable though.
Love it. Magnus, what do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Levi said. I think we've sort of felt that way from the very start, that if Gukesh takes a lead, that's sort of it. But yeah, now it's very open. I think Gukesh is still a slight favorite, but it's yeah, it's going towards 50-50 really, really quickly. And now, of course, nerves will be even higher. The value of each move, each point, everything is going to increase for every game. So it's what we all wanted. It's a tight match, and we have no idea what's going to happen. So it's great.
Fantastic. Oh, it's so cool to listen to you guys and your expert opinions. Are you guys going to play Title Tuesday?
No, I'll have to go to dinner.
No, I have to work, but it's a good signing off point. Not sponsored, by the way, but but no.
All right. Well, Levy and Magnus, thank you so much again for your expert comments. We'll see you again tomorrow for Game 8. And to everyone at home, thank you so much for joining the Take post-game show. We hope you enjoy it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
We have two players and we have no idea what to expect from.
He has the spark which we see in champions.
They've been waiting for this moment for so long.
From the time when I was a little kid.
I haven't lost with him in classical.